Guys, welcome to a classic horror film review of 1987's Hellraiser, written and directed by Clive Barker and starring Sean Chapman, Claire Higgins, Ashley Lawrence and of course Doug Bradley as horror icon Pinhead. It's the not very family-friendly tale of a woman who must begin killing people to revitalise the body of her brother-in-law so he can escape a gang of maniacal demons that are searching for him after he summoned them using a mysterious puzzle box. Now, its blood and gut special effects are no joke, even 3.5 decades on, and a part of the reason that this is one of the pillars of modern horror, a movie that birthed a franchise and an instantly recognisable icon of horror cinema. A character that appears on all the promotional materials for the movie, but who is in fact barely in the movie at all. The film's real villains are much more interesting. Let's take a look.
You solved the box. We came. Now you must come with us. Taste our pleasures.
Please, go away and leave me alone.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
So, before we get started, I always forget that Hellraiser is a British film, filmed in London with a mostly British cast, some of whom were dubbed by US actors after the fact. I don't think the film announces itself as being set in the UK, and it doesn't really matter in all honesty, but it certainly gives the movie that atmosphere of grey dread. Right, so buckle up for this one, as unlike a lot of 80s horror, the Nightmare on Elm Street, the Friday the 13th and Halloween's, etc., Hellraiser has a surprisingly deep and complex lore to it. This isn't about a bogeyman running around murdering teenagers, but it's actually a tale of ancient evil, of ritualistic sacrifice, and, oddly enough, it's a very twisted love story. Now, stay with me here because we have a guy named Frank Cotton, played by Sean Chapman, who purchases a very particular kind of box from a guy in a Moroccan cafe. When he returns home with the box, he sneaks upstairs and sets about solving this puzzle. The idea being that solving it will summon demons who will be more than happy to provide you with the apparent sensuality of experiencing the very limits of pain. And this is exactly what happens as Frank's soul is torn apart. Now, it's not long after that Frank's brother Larry, played by Andrew Robinson, arrives to stay at the house with his new wife Julia, a very creepy Claire Higgins. Now, Julia and the late Frank used to have relations, and when a drop of blood spills onto the area of Frank's death/disappearance, it begins the process of resurrecting the creep. His rebirth is still a staggering sequence of practical visual effects. Now, the film becomes a twisted serial killer movie at this point, as Julia is persuaded to lure men to their deaths so that Frank can feed off their blood and complete his gory resurrection. So where do Pinhead and his sadomasochistic groupies come into this? Well, they barely do, in all honesty. It's only when Julia's stepdaughter Kirsty, played by Ashley Lawrence, arrives and makes a deal with the demons to deliver Frank back to them, that they become an actual cog in the story.
Who are you?
Explorers in the further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
It was a mistake!
So Hellraiser was written and directed by Clive Barker, based on his novella, The Hellbound Heart. It's a cynical and nasty piece of work, which is one of the things that's great about it. And of course, it's in keeping with a year that also featured the release of RoboCop, Wall Street, Fatal Attraction, etc. And it has some brilliantly quotable dialogue, mostly from Doug Bradley's excellent portrayal of the lead Cenobite.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Now, its horror does mostly come from the outrageously gloopy blood and guts effects, but also from that tone of dread that hangs over everything. Also, for such a low-budget affair, its production design and dank cinematography are excellent. Gloomy attic rooms, pillars covered in chains and body parts. The costumes for the Cenobites are disgustingly intricate as well. So the actual villain of Hellraiser is, of course, the wicked witch stepmother. The excellent Claire Higgins is such an icy presence. I always enjoyed the way she almost doesn't hesitate to get involved with Frank's corruption and depravity. She's horrified by it initially, but doesn't take much persuasion to start getting involved in the murder and mayhem.
Jesus Christ!
In many ways, she's much more chilling than the bunch of evil S&M demons that turn up. Her menacing looks and 80s hairdo are excellent. So the protagonist and the only mildly likeable character on screen really is Kirsty, again played by Ashley Lawrence, who also appeared in the next couple of sequels that I'll mention in a minute or two. I don't think I've ever seen Lawrence in anything else, to be honest, and although she's no Jamie Lee Curtis or Heather Langenkamp, she does a solid job here getting dragged about and looking horrified at the atrocious violence around her.
Frank.
No. We had to hear it from your own lips.
This isn't for your eyes.
You set me up, bitch.
Now, Hellraiser has a dark hedonism that's rarely seen in mainstream horror cinema. Barker really pushing the concepts of sadomasochism to an uncomfortable edge. Now, I'm not too sure how many sequels there have been to Hellraiser over the years. More than 10, I'm sure. And I've only seen a few of them. And I didn't mind the recent remake/reimagining, in all honesty, flaws and all. I do have fond memories, though, of being scared by the second film, Hellbound, with its asylum setting and its evil Dr. Shenard. I'm not sure how many others are worth watching. This first one is the only one of the series that Barker would both write and direct. Now, the next movie that Clive Barker would make would be Nightbreed, based on another one of his works, which I'm personally not a big fan of, to be honest. And then Lord of Illusions in 1995, which I either haven't seen or don't remember seeing. But I don't think he's made anything since then. And I don't think he's even published a novel in a good few years. So Hellraiser may not feature very high up on many people's greatest horror movie lists. I think its horror still holds up, though, even if its legacy has probably been tarnished by so many sequels, prequels and spin-off merchandise. Maybe it's a bit too nasty and relentlessly grim for its own good. Its horror imagery is its unique selling point. Fish hooks ripping flesh apart, a face being assembled on the floor like a jigsaw puzzle, a man with nails hammered to his head and face, things that only a mind like Clive Barker's could conjure up. Go check it out.